All right. Assistant Offensive Line Coach Mike Pauly. Questions for Coach Pauly?
Yeah, I was going to ask that, for people that haven't read your bio, where was your previous place, and how did you get in touch with Georgia Tech, and how's it going so far here?
Yes, sir. So I started my career when I got done playing. I started at Middle Tennessee as a graduate assistant working for Coach Stock. He gave me my first opportunity. Left there and went to Murray State, an FCS school in Western Kentucky, which is where I met Coach Faulkner, our offensive coordinator here. So Coach Faulkner, Buster, was our OC at Murray State. We had a great year offensively. Buster left and went to Middle Tennessee. A couple years later, I followed him to Middle Tennessee, worked with him again, where I was also with Jeep. Jeep was our O-line coach. Buster was our OC, and I was the running backs coach. Did that for 3 years. Jeep and Buster both left the same year to go different places. Then I moved into the offensive line role, and I was there for another 8 years until our head coach, Coach Stock, had spent about 18 years at MTSU, and they decided to make a change. So I actually spent a year in the high school ranks this past season, which was something I never would have expected that I would have done, but it was really good for me. Sometimes you kind of need that moment in your career just to step back and see everything. And in the meantime, Keelin Rutledge, one of my offensive linemen that I recruited at middle and played for us, and I got to coach for 2 years, had come to Georgia Tech. Buster and Jeep had stayed close friends, and Coach Key gave me the opportunity, and it's been unbelievable since. I've been here since January. I tell people all the time, man, I'm living a dream, having the time of my life, and it's an unbelievable group of kids that I get to work with. I'm just honored to get to do it, to be honest with you.
Kelly?
How's it been just transitioning back to working with Buster, and are there a lot of similarities to what he was doing when you worked with him before? And how have you seen him kind of change? And I'm sure
Yeah,
a lot's
for sure.
changed in 10
Absolutely.
years or whatever with him.
So he's still the same person, that's for sure. He's wild. He cares so much about it, which I think is what's really cool, and that's always what has drawn me to wanting to work with him as an assistant. Like I've always. When Buster left Murray State, I was like, I want to work with Buster again. When Buster left middle, we almost worked together again for a short period of time at another school, and now here. And it's just, he's a great guy to work for, but he's just his mind and everything as an offensive coordinator, and how he keeps the O-line in mind, and how he calls plays and things he does, and how he protects the offensive line, which is obviously means a lot to me. But he also has grown a ton, you know what I mean, as a play caller and offensively and what we do here now. There are similarities, but it's a lot of stuff I've had to relearn. It wasn't kind of like going back to an old playbook. He definitely has grown and developed as an offensive coordinator. So.
Okay. You just mentioned Keelin. Give us some Keelin stories since you've known him for a long time. What makes him special?
What makes Keelin Rutledge special is his mentality and his heart. Just to be honest with you, I don't know how much you guys know about him in high school, but Keelin did not play offensive line. So we had to take a chance on him. He had played tight end. I tell people all the time, I went to evaluate Keelin during the season, watch him play, and I go to pregame, and he's catching routes. He's not blocking anybody, and I was like, okay. But, man, he was a big kid that could run and could do stuff. And the more I got to know him, we had another assistant coach on our staff, one of our D-line coaches, who was from the same area that Keelin was from. So we knew a lot about him as a person and knew a lot of his high school coaches. And as I just got to know him more and more in the recruiting process, it became evident that people talk about it like he just had it. And, we got him, and, people were like, man, how'd you develop Keelin? Man, Keelin developed himself, and he's continuing to do that. And that's what makes him so special. And obviously he still has a ton of room to grow. But, man, it was cool for me to be away for a year and come back and see, like, what Coach Key and Jeep and Buster and what these guys, how they had taken sort of what I felt like I had built. And it's like, a parent, when you see your kid, after they go away to college, it was like, man, look at how he's grown and developed. And so, but as a leader, as a second-year player for us at MTSU, he was a captain. And then I come here, and, he's only been here for a year, and he's assumed that leadership role and that alpha role. And so, man, what a great kid. And I'm excited to get to work with him again.
Georgia?
Jeep was talking about maturity with the players, especially the younger ones. With you guys as coaches, how do you go about trying to instill that with the guys?
Yeah, so, the number one way that you mature is through experience. And experience is not something that you can, that you can just make up, or something that you can just create. You have to go through things. Like, you have to fail. You have to miss the blitz pickup and the blitz walkthrough that we do so that you can maybe do it right during practice so that during the game you will do it exactly right. And so the way that we develop maturity is through reps. And that's mental reps, that's physical reps. That's also reps like, in our jacket drills that Coach Wade mentioned a few minutes ago. Those are like toughness reps, developing kids to be tough. And so we get so many reps here and walkthroughs and everything that we do, you're able to mature guys faster. And then I think a lot of it goes back to, I'm going to say they because I wasn't here, but the way that they have recruited here, bringing in the right people. It's a lot easier to mature a guy who wants to develop and wants to grow than a guy who resists it.
You're obviously benefiting from the rules changes and stuff. You were out for when all that kind of went into
Right.
effect. What's it like being like a co-line coach and having Jeep to work with and being in that position versus, a few years ago where you'd be running a room by yourself, maybe with a GA helping you.
Right.
Well, how does that work and what is that like for you?
Yeah, so it's definitely been a little bit different. You know what I mean? Like I kind of go back to my first day of spring practice here, and like the first thing that I hear is Coach Key's voice behind me, like, Mike, back up. You know what I mean? Because I'm all up in there a little bit too much probably than I should have been. But man, it's been awesome. The way that the rules have changed and what these guys allow me to do and the trust that they put in me to work with and help develop these guys. It's definitely different, you know what I mean? But the good thing is, like, philosophically, mentality-wise, like what Coach Key and Jeep and Buster have built here, like I couldn't agree with more. So there's nothing that's, I'm just pulling the rope in the same direction. I'm another dude on the rope pulling, and I feel like, as the assistant O-line coach, it's really one of my big jobs is to increase the development of these young kids. And I try to take that very personal and making sure that, hey, if Jeep's having to coach this, maybe I'm standing with the young guy and saying, hey, do you see that? You see the older kid, are you paying attention? And just trying to be another set of eyes on those guys to really just increase the development of our young guys.
Jackson?
Through your first couple months here, what's been your evaluation of the talent in the offensive line room?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing that I noticed was the mentality in the offensive line room. And it is such a good culture in there. And I think that starts from the top with, it's the first time in my career I've ever gotten to work for an offensive line coach. Our head coach is an offensive line guy, and I think that matters. You know what I mean? And obviously I've been an O-lineman my whole life. I've coached O-line, and, it's pretty cool to get to work for a guy who thinks like you, in every facet. But the mentality in the room, the culture in the room, and the talent in the room is really good. Like Coach Wade mentioned, like, we're young, but we're talented, and now we have to develop these guys. And, talent only takes you so far. You have to produce. And so we have to just continue to work every day and get better and keep pushing. And, the goal every day is just to get better. As long as you keep doing that, then, you have the right talent and you brought the right guys in, you're going to be fine.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap up with Coach Pauly. So appreciate it, Coach.
All right.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to meet you.